So there's this common misconception that a leaking water pressure relief valve means the valve is bad and needs to be replaced. So today we're going to talk about the chronological order of diagnosing this valve in case you ever experience this issue. Hey everyone, I'm Ross with RV Tips and Travels. If you're new to the channel, we're on our 7th year of RVing. This channel is all about sharing those experiences over those 7 years, and we hope you enjoy and learn something from the video. All right, let's get started. Cold water goes into your water heater. The water is heated up, and as we all know, hot water expands, the tank builds pressure. Enter the pressure relief valve. The majority of you guys will find this valve on the front of your water heater where you have exterior access. In the RV community, this is commonly called a pressure relief valve, but it's technically a temperature and pressure valve, also known as a T&P valve. It'll automatically open when the tank's interior pressure or temperature exceed the rated pressure or temperature. So when this valve opens, you'll usually see a slow or steady drip coming from this output valve. Basically, it protects your water heater tank and fittings from essentially exploding. If you see it leaking here, that's another issue. Your valve body threads are just not sealed in the water heater. You'll need to either tighten this valve or remove it and reseal it, which we'll talk about later. Under the manual release lever is what's called a data tag or a rating plate, and it will tell you what that specific T&P valve is rated for. If you do have to replace it, the new valve specs should match your current valve. And as you can see here, my valve limits are 150 PSI and 210 degrees Fahrenheit. So to keep things simple, here's a very general explanation of how this valve works. Inside the valve body is a valve. The valve is closed by default using a spring, and you can manually open the valve by flipping the switch. Full disclaimer, some people do it, but I don't recommend opening your T&P valve while your water heater is turned on. You have 140 degree water inside a pressurized tank. You can get burned. We'll talk about when to open this valve later on in the video. Okay, so there's actually a couple reasons this T&P valve could be leaking. First, it's a mechanical valve, and it has to reseat itself every time it opens and closes. And from all the research that I've done, this seems to be the most common issue with the T&P valves. The second reason is the valve may just be doing its job. The pressure or the temperature inside the tank may be exceeding the rating of the valve, but this doesn't necessarily mean the valve is faulty. So by design, there should be an air pocket at the very top of your water heater tank. Over time with usage, the water level rises higher than it should and reduces the size of that air pocket. When that happens, the pressure rises inside the tank and the T&P valve could open. The good news is you can fix both of these issues with one procedure, and we'll cover that process now. To reseat the valve, we first need to open and close the valve, and we don't want to do that while the tank is under pressure with hot water in it. So first, turn off all the power sources to your water heater, turn off your water pump if you're using your fresh water tank, or turn off your city water. Open one of your hot and cold faucets until all the water pressure is gone and there's no more hot water coming through the faucet. Open the manual lever on your T&P valve to relieve any additional pressure that still may be in the tank. This process depressurizes and partially empties your water heater tank. Now close the faucets that you just opened. Go ahead and turn your water pump or city connection water back on. Do not turn your water heater power back on though. We want to pressurize the tank, but we don't want any hot water in it. Now stand back because you might get a little wet, and just open and close the manual release about 5 times. Sometimes dirt or calcium deposits can get stuck underneath this valve, and it's good to do this under pressure because that water flow will help remove any dirt or debris that's in there. Next, close the valve, make sure your water heater is powered back on, and you're going to have to come back once the water is up to temperature to see if it's leaking again. Now, if that doesn't work, try tapping, and I stress gently tapping on this valve. Sometimes this will help reseat the seal, but if it doesn't, you may have to eventually change out the valve. This entire depressurizing, emptying, and refilling process will actually reset the air pocket issue that I talked about earlier, so there's nothing more we need to do at this point. So you've either fixed the leak or you still have it, which leads us to the third reason your T&P valve could be dripping water. It might just be worn out and past its usable life. The good news though is that when a T&P valve fails, the spring is usually worn out, which means it fails in the open position, which also means you don't necessarily have to worry about your water heater tank exploding. The other good news is that they're very easy to replace. They just screw out and screw back in. They cost anywhere from 15 to 20 bucks, so they're not expensive. Now you may have to remove some shrouds to get a pipe wrench or some channel locks inside around your T&P valve to remove it. Or you can pick up one of these pressure relief valve removal tools that makes it easy to replace. I'll also put a link to one of these below. If you need to replace the T&P valve, you're also going to need some Teflon tape. And for you non-mechanical folks out there, you have to apply Teflon tape on the threads in a certain direction. Let me show you what I mean. Hold the threads in your left hand with the entry point facing to the right. Wrap the tape from the bottom of the threads closest to your body over like this. By doing this, the exposed edge of the tape will be forced down against the threads as the valve is rethreaded back into the water heater. If you do it the other way, the edge of the tape could peel up as you install it. Now, I wish I can tell you how to determine if your T&P valve is faulty or it's just doing its job before you go ahead and replace it. There's not really an easy way to determine this, and it's really not worth the time. If your valve is leaking, follow all the steps in this video. If it's still leaking at that point, just go ahead and replace the valve. But we're not done yet because there's actually a fourth reason your T&P valve could be leaking. Let's say your T&P valve is in perfect working condition. It's leaking, but it's not leaking because of the air pocket issue or because it's improperly seating. Something else is causing that T&P valve to open, and now the issue could be at your water heater thermostat, the heating element, or even the control board. And diagnosing those issues is a much different process than we're covering in this video today. The good news is that it's more common for the issue to be at the T&P valve than those electrical components. Now, depending on the type of wet bay or connection panel that you have on your RV, on the backside of your water heater, you may have a series of bypass valves. These are also something that's important to understand on your RV. You can click on this video right here to learn everything there is to know about water heater bypass valves. We hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.